Welcome back, patreon.com/the Derrick Lamon Experience, your one-stop shop for your gaming news. I apologize in advance. There is no video episode of The Week in Gaming this week because I am just overly busy. Of course, it is graduation season. So I have one niece graduating high school this week, and then I have another niece graduating from the University of Missouri next week. Also, grad party season. Work is very busy, and of course, we're about to hit our busy season here in gaming. So, uh, no video episode of The Week in Gaming this week, but video will return. I don't know if it'll be next week. I will keep you guys posted. Um, Also, if you're on the feed, I can't even remember which feed has State of Hip Hop. I'm actually saving it for a review of this Drake album. There's going to be double on this because Pause Menu Society will be doing a review episode of the album, so you guys are going to get that as well. So now that we've got that out the way, welcome to The Week in Gaming. Of course, this show takes place, well, it used to be exclusive to Patreon, but I did allow it to be placed back on the free feeds through some negotiations and stuff like that. Obviously, I'm still keeping 100% of the receipts. No big deal. Sorry about that. It's par for the course around this area. Anyway, let's get down to business, of course. There's quite a bit to talk about. It seems like a really slow week, but there's actually stuff to talk about. So let's start with this information that we got earlier today. This is coming from our good friends over at videogameschronicle.com. Shift Up says it will publish Stellar Blade 2 instead of Sony wants to reach a broad global audience from day one. It is also actively exploring further platform expansion for the first game. Sequel to Stellar Blade will not be published, of course, by Sony Interactive Entertainment. First Stellar Blade was published by Sony and released in April of 2024 as a PlayStation 5 exclusive before getting a PC port 14 months later in June of 2025. Now, in a Q&A following its quarter one earnings presentation, Shift Up has stated that it will be publishing the next Stellar Blade game itself. I hope they're prepared for this. This is publishing a game is not cheap. So they need to, be very aware of this. Development of the next Stellar Blade title is progressing smoothly, on track to meet our targeted quality standards, said. Quote, notably, starting with this next title, Shift Up will transition to a first-party service model. This allows us to lead marketing strategies that fully reflect the distinctive identity of Stellar Blade IP. Where the hell did it go? Jesus Christ, this drives me crazy that I do this. If you swipe a certain way on a Mac, it's just crazy. Anyway, we expect to communicate the unique appeal of its universe to players more directly and effectively. Although it didn't specifically state whether Stellar Blade 2 should be released in other formats such as Xbox Series X and S or Switch 2, Shift Up did imply that it aims to release the sequel simultaneously on supported platforms rather than exclusively on the PlayStation 5 first. Quote, building on strong fandom and evergreen IP status established by the first Stellar Blade, we are formulating an optimal go-to market strategy designed to maximize sales and reach a broad global audience from day one. With three key tailwinds: high quality self-publishing capabilities, a sales maximization strategy, and proven IP fan base, we are confident the next title will deliver meaningfully improved results compared to its predecessor. Elsewhere in its QA, Shift Up hinted that the original Stellar Blade may be coming in other formats, saying it was actively exploring further platform expansion. It was reported back in June of 2025 that Shift Up is working on a Nintendo Switch 2 port of the game, following its massive Steam success, but nothing has been officially confirmed yet. I would assume that they've had conversations with Microsoft, and I would assume that they've got some Xbox development kits. I will tell you this, the game is going to sell well on PC because you have freaky people and they want to play with mods and make the main character's butt bigger and shit like that. I I just, hey, whatever you're into, I don't yuck anybody's yum. Um I just think it's very strange. But whatever, it is what it is. Some people are into like hentai and anime, erotic anime and erotic graphic novels and stuff like that. And it's not my place to say anything. Again, not here to yuck anybody's yum. It just is what it is, and I will leave it at that. In other news, just found this out. Gears of War E Day is sponsoring an upcoming WWE event, shedding light on a potential release window. The tie in may be aligned to coincide with the game's launch. During the WWE Backlash live event this weekend, the company announced that Triple Mania, a 2-day event in collaboration with Mexican promotion AAA, will take place on September 11th and 13th. Okay. Which means if they're doing a tie-in, it's probably around that time. WWE also revealed that the event will be sponsored by Gears of War E-Day, Microsoft's upcoming Xbox Series X and S and PC game. WWE events have featured video game and movie tie-ins in the past, usually timed to coincide with their release. On August 31st of last year, tag team The Street Profits fought at the Clash in Paris event dressed as characters from Borderlands 4. The game was then released 2 weeks later. I'm sorry. Similarly, at this year's WrestleMania, wrestler Penta dressed up as Shao Kahn from Mortal Kombat for his entrance just weeks before the release of Mortal Kombat 2 in cinemas. If Gears of War E-Day is the main sponsor for an event set to be held in mid-September, this could imply a late September or early October release window for the game. Microsoft has already stated that Fable will be released in fall of 2026. Add that it will also release Halo Campaign Evolved and Minecraft Dungeons 2 later this year. None of these games have a solid release date yet. However, more information may come to light next month during the Xbox Game Showcase, which of course takes place on June 7th and will likely provide release dates or release window updates on at least some of the above games. The Xbox Game Showcase will be directly followed by the Gears of War E-Day Direct, which will go into the game in more detail. Um, I would say that September is probably a safe bet based on the tie-in with this WWE event and also the fact that Grand Theft Auto is coming in November. So if you want to release a game in the fall, you want to get it out before Rockstar drops their nuclear bomb because everybody is going back in at that time. Call of Duty will come out around that time, but it's not going to drop on the same day. It's just not going to happen. Um, I'm very excited for Gears of War E-Day. I didn't play them on the 360. I remember what happened because I got the 360, but I generally was playing like Madden and a lot of stuff like that, and um, Project Gotham Racing, NHL, college football, a lot of that stuff. The reason I got the 360, and I've told the story many times in this podcast, is that it came to market a year before the PlayStation 3. I was always a PlayStation guy. Ever since I had to absolutely have a PlayStation to play Final Fantasy VII, I've been a PlayStation guy. I've been a member of that ecosystem. I simply bought an Xbox 360 because it came to market a year before the PlayStation did. Point blank, period. Um, so I didn't play them on the 360. What happened was they did the remaster of the original Gears of War, and my cousin, who is a huge Gears fan, was like, "Bro, you got to play this game." And I played it, and I loved it. I was like, "Okay." And then they did like this thing where because if you bought the Xbox One version of Gears of War remastered, well, that was the only version. Um, I forgot what it was called. Gears of War Ultimate Edition or something like that. Anyway, they gave you once the backward compatibility program was announced for Xbox, they gave you the original 4 Gears games, Gears 2, Gears 3, and Gears Judgment for free. So I played Gears Ultimate, then they gave me those and I played all of those and I remember people were like, "You actually like Judgment?" I was like, "Yeah, I don't mind it. Like I like some kind of spin-off story." So that's how I got into it. And then by the time Gears 4 comes, I'm totally hyped. I'm like, I'm a Gears head now. I gotta play this game. Love Gears 4. Gears 5, very iffy on. I didn't like the fact that they tried to make it like an open world and stuff like that, the skiff and all that stuff. But I enjoyed some of the game. I enjoyed the ending where they made you basically make a choice. I would hope that when the next title comes out, which we expected Gears 6, but we're getting Gears of War E-Day, and I'm actually very excited. I like prequels. I like to know what happened on Emergence Day, so this is actually perfect for me. But when Gears 6 comes, I would hope that, it's gonna read like the save from your Gears 5 playthrough and be like, okay, so this is who you chose to save. And at this point, I don't remember who I chose to save. I actually can't remember if it was JD or the Dell. I really can't remember, which is crazy. So anyway, we shall see what happens, but hopefully that's a nod to what we're getting um and when we're getting it. So, I don't know. Top story this week, of course, is we are finally at the point. We've had this conversation ad nauseum on this podcast that this is the first generation where the price of the console has not gone down as the generation went further and further. We are it's 2026. The PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X and S, they released November of 2020. We are at the point where these consoles are coming up on their sixth anniversary and there's not been a price drop. The price has only gone up. Nintendo has joined the club. So we are officially in the first generation where every console maker raised the price of the console during the generation. So in the US, the Switch 2 is taking place on September 1st worldwide and May 25th in Japan. So by the time you guys hear this, Japan has just a little time before this takes place. So in the US, it's going from 449 to 499. In Europe, it's going for 469 euros to 499 euros. Canada, $629 to $679. In Japan, 49,980 yen to 59,980 yen. That's what's happening. They're going up. Nobody can safely say because when Sony raised the prices, they're like they're corporate greed and blah 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 blah. And it's like Nintendo would never do this to us. And here we are just a short while later, and it's like, well, um, well, so I know what we said, but here the fuck we are. Here we are. And again, I cannot stress this enough. Have the day that you voted for, because I know they're like, this has nothing to do with the tariffs. If you believe that, then you're a fucking moron. Microsoft was different. They have to make that money back that they spent on Bethesda, ZeniMax, and Activision Blizzard King. Then also the tariffs came in. We're imposing tariffs on foreign goods. The thing that Donald Trump does not understand is that our televisions, our cell phones, our tablets, our gaming consoles, pretty much all the electronics we use are made in China. They're not made here in the United States of America. Those are goods and services that we use every single day of our fucking lives. So what did you think was going to happen? Now, just because Xbox raised their prices before the tariffs does not mean that PlayStation and Nintendo haven't had to raise them as a direct result of the tariffs. And if you don't think that's true, well, then I'm sorry, you don't understand economics. When everybody's like, no, the tariffs, they're going to pay the tariff. And we're all like, you guys don't understand how a fucking tariff works. The consumer eats the cost. We, as the consumers, are now eating the cost. So have the day that you voted for. Now, this goes a little deeper. So Nintendo, this is very interesting. President Shintaro Furukawa says the aim is for Switch 2's lifespan to last as long as the Switch. So the Switch came out March 3rd, 2017. It has not been sunsetted yet, so who knows what the fuck that means. So last week, Nintendo confirmed it will be raising the price of the Switch 2 consoles in the United States, Europe, and Canada on September 1st. On that date, the price of Switch 2 consoles in the US again will increase by $50 to $49.99. In Europe, Switch 2 hardware will increase by 30 euros to $499.99, or euros, I'm sorry. In Canada, the console will increase by $50 as well. Before that, on May 25th, Japan will see similar price hikes with all of Nintendo's hardware, including the original Switch, increasing by around 10,000 yen. A console that came out in March of 2017 is going up 10,000 yen in Japan. I need y'all to understand. So some of this, because Nintendo, remember, they showed us the Switch too, and they're like, yeah, pre-order start next week, and then Trump imposed the tariffs, and we're like, holy fuck. And Nintendo flat out said, we have to pause. Pre-orders are going to be on hold because we have to figure this out. However, raising the price by 10,000 yen in Japan was like, well, that doesn't make sense. Here's why it does. Not only did we receive tariffs on imported goods, we also are in a boom for AI. ChatGPT, Google Gemini, Microsoft Copilot, Zora just ended. We're using AI for the PlayStation 5 Pro and PSSR and all this different stuff. Everybody's using AI. Kids are doing their homework with ChatGPT, all this stuff. Well, these data centers that they're building to run these AI systems, they take a lot of RAM. So this is why it kills us in the back end here. All right. The fucking tariffs are already doing enough damage. But this is in particular because of the RAM that's needed to run these data centers. Our cell phones, our tablets, our PCs, laptops, gaming consoles all use RAM. So we're taking the hit twice. So that's why, because you'd be like, well, why are they raising the price in Japan? Like, they don't have to deal with Trump's tariffs. Like, it just doesn't make sense. You're right, they don't, but they do have to deal with the rising cost of RAM. So here we are, unfortunately. So have the day you voted for and also stop fucking using AI because you're going to fuck up the fucking ecosystem and the environment, but whatever. So during the company's latest financial results presentation for Okawa, reportedly stated as translated by Nintendo Patents Watch that the new pricing does not fully account for all cost increases, implying that the price increase could have been higher, but Nintendo didn't want to risk affecting the momentum of Switch 2 sales. We sincerely apologize to our customers for the considerable inconvenience and trouble this will cause, Furukawa reportedly said of the price increase. While we wanted to prioritize a wide adoption, it was challenging to bear the rising costs over a long period. As reported by Reuters, Furukawa explained that Nintendo had come to the conclusion that a number of changes in the market environment, including the rising cost of memory, the weak yen, and rising crude oil prices, also were going to remain for the medium to long term, and that that the price increases were made with this in mind. Furukawa also said that while the new console prices may increase the barrier to purchase, he's hopeful that a solid and growing lineup of Switch 2 games will eventually encourage more players to buy a Switch 2. We will prepare a robust software lineup to enhance the Switch 2 ownership value, he reportedly said. We will work diligently to overcome this barrier. The global economic situation has piled further pressure on game console manufacturers, which historically have reduced prices over time. Last summer, Nintendo announced that it was increasing the price of the original Switch console in the US due to market conditions. And here they are doing it again. Both Sony and Microsoft previously raised the price of their games consoles last year. Then in March, Sony announced a massive $100 price increase for PlayStation 5 consoles, citing the global economic landscape. The cheapest digital edition PlayStation 5 console has swollen by 50%, $200 or €200 since the platform launched in 2020. This is affecting all of us. But also, I also want to point out the pandemic played a part in this as well. Pandemic definitely played a part in this. I don't know why people don't want to like acknowledge that. And they're like, you can't blame this on COVID. You can. You 100% can. Like this is directly we're seeing the effects all this time later. You know how they say in the NFL because they throw quarterbacks out there early now. You get a couple of games to sit and watch, and the minute the current starter fucks up, get the new kid out there. Let's see what he's got. There's a saying that if you draft a bad quarterback, you set your franchise back 5 years. They don't even do that anymore. They throw them out there early to see what they got so they can get rid of them at the end of that rookie deal and they're not on the hook for it. Okay. Um, we're seeing the effects of the pandemic 5, 6 years later, point blank, period. We've seen studios get closed. We've seen layoffs in mass. Um, we've everybody's done a shitty job. Nintendo laid in the weeds for a while. PlayStation and Microsoft did a shitty job. Microsoft let a bunch of people go because, again, you've got to cut costs because you spent $80 billion on two publishers. Sony, trying to chase Microsoft, ridiculously spent, I think, $3 billion on Bungie, which was a total fucking mistake. And then Blue Point has been closed. Jim Ryan wanted 12 live service games. It's just been a fucking shit show. And Nintendo sincerely was a lot of people's last hope. Like, Nintendo's not going to fuck us over. And look, Nintendo fucked you over. So, ahead of this price increase, Nintendo has announced a limited Switch 2 console and game bundle ahead of its planned price rise. Starting next month, Switch 2 will be available bundled with Mario Kart, DK, or Pocopia. You get to make your choice. Nintendo has announced starting next month it will offer Switch 2 console bundles, including a digital game for $500. That's what I got the Mario Kart World bundle for $500 when I got mine. The Choose Your Game bundle will be available at select retailers and allow purchasers to redeem digital versions of either Mario Kart World, Donkey Kong Bonanza, or Pokemon Pocopia. Nintendo Switch 2 Choose Your Game bundle will be available for a limited time while supplies last, the company stated. Previously, Nintendo offered Switch 2 consoles bundled with Mario Kart World before the offer expired ahead of last Christmas. New game bundles arrived ahead of announced price rise for Nintendo Switch 2, which will go into effect starting September 1st, raising the base console's price to $500. Again, we've gone over the prices already. In light of changes in the market conditions after considering the global business outlook, Nintendo will revise the manufacturer's suggested retail price, aka the MSRP of the Nintendo Switch 2 system and Nintendo Switch systems, the company said. Does this affect the Switch Lite? Is it all the systems in the Switch One family or just the console and the dock? This is interesting. In its latest financial results published last week, Nintendo said it expects to sell fewer Switch 2 consoles in its second year, partly due to the price hike, but also due to more people buying the system at launch compared to its predecessor. People always say, why do you buy consoles day one? I'm not going to sit here and tell you I had a crystal ball and I saw this stuff coming because I just didn't. But I obviously do this show, so I have to be knowledgeable about video games. That's why I'm a day one adopter of console. And even before I did this show, I love video games. I want to play it on the latest and greatest hardware because the game that they've developed is going to take better advantage of brand new hardware, or theoretically they're supposed to. The ROI on that is getting a lot smaller. Like, we used to see these huge graphical fidelity jumps. We're just not seeing that much anymore. From the PlayStation 3, Xbox 360 to the Xbox One, PlayStation 4, okay, it was a minimal jump. From the PlayStation 4, Xbox One to the Xbox Series X and S to PlayStation 5 generation, the major changes you saw were quality of life improvements, SSDs instead of standard hard drives. You saw some improvements in lighting and lumens and stuff like that. The DualSense is probably not even probably, it is the greatest controller ever made. Um, M.2 drives added to the PlayStation. I've got one in both of mine. Actually, all three of mine. Actually, I don't have one in my Pro. I'm sorry. I have one in the living room, and I have one in my daughter's PlayStation, but I haven't added one to my Pro, which I probably need to because I have a lot of fucking games. Um, but we're not seeing these huge graphical jumps. We're just not. I'd like these photorealistic graphics that everybody keeps waiting for. I think we might have peaked graphically. I think we might have peaked in terms of graphical fidelity, but what the fuck do I know? We shall see. But speaking of the good folks over at Team Blue, PlayStation exec says next few years of unannounced games is unbelievably positive. I'm sorry, there are no dire times ahead for the industry. Well, I hope that he's telling the truth, he or she. I PlayStation has been a total disaster this generation. Again, Jim Ryan really fucked everybody over. He took a really good piece of tech and just basically destroyed it. Um, I can't fathom. Um, I can't fathom how they could do this. You cut off the definition of cutting off your nose to spite your face. What they did to the PlayStation 5. Um, PlayStation's head of third-party content has said the platform's upcoming game slate is unbelievably positive and argued that the industry should be more optimistic about the future. Pause right there. Third party, head of third party. What is PlayStation Studios doing? What is PlayStation Studios doing? That's my question. We know people are going to be playing Grand Theft Auto for a while. We know that we're going to have some other really great games coming. I want to know about Spider-Man 3 because Wolverine's coming this fall. I would assume Intergalactic is coming sometime 2027. What is Naughty Dog doing after that? What the hell has Sony been working on? What's the next game from Santa Monica Studios? What is Bungie going to do? Are you going to fully ensconce Bungie into PlayStation Studios? Stop letting Bungie activate independently. You paid $3 million and they've done nothing but fuck up since they've got under the PlayStation banner. So let's make the right decisions. Third party is going to take care of third party. Got Madden, 2K, college football, Borderlands, Metal Gear Solid, Battlefield, so many third party games. The next Assassin's Creed. We have a steady output of third party games. And that's great because if we didn't, then there'd have been really dark times for gaming because first party at Sony wasn't doing great and first party at Microsoft was putting games out, but a lot of them weren't high quality. Anyway, Christian Sevenson, Sony Interactive Entertainment Vice President of second and third party content, was speaking to the game business about the future of the games industry at a time when layoffs, studio closures, and turbulent player spending regularly occupy news headlines. Svensson's team is responsible for supporting developers who want to make games for PlayStation 5 and thus has a unique view of what companies have planned for the upcoming years. Pause really quickly. If there's a studio that already has PlayStation 5 or PlayStation 5 Pro dev kits, that's one thing. Or Microsoft Xbox Series X and S or Xbox Helix dev kits, that's one thing. But again, what I said earlier, what do our consoles have in them? RAM. The dev kits are they're the same as consoles. They have debug mode and stuff like that. The one difference is they're not the retail version. If you see the PlayStation 5 dev kit as opposed to the actual retail version of the PlayStation 5, the PlayStation 5 Slim, or the PlayStation 5 Pro, they look nothing alike. The PlayStation 5 dev kit actually looks like my audio interface that I'm recording on right now. It's only a bit bigger than that, just to give you kind of an idea. But you haven't seen my audio interface, so that doesn't matter either. So I'm gonna assume that they have PS5 dev kits if they're talking about developing games. Just throwing that out there. Anyways, Fenton said that based on the games he knows are coming, he believes that developers and publishers are making very smart decisions and that games industry should feel more comfortable about the future. In the future, there's going to be more touch points with players than ever, and figuring out how to navigate the number of devices, the number of audience segments, and finding your audience for your game. That's going to continue to be where the challenge is, he said. I'm in an incredibly privileged position to have amazing visibility into what games will be for the next 3, 4, and 5 years. I literally cannot explain to you. Last year was an amazing year for games. This year will be even better. Next year will be better still. The trajectory of content is unbelievably positive, and we as an industry should be super optimistic about where we're going in spite of the headwinds. Svensson noted that because games take years to make, the decisions about developers and publishers today might not necessarily be seen for some time. This is true. Obviously, the decisions we're making now take into account where we were at this moment. He said, "We're anticipating where we're going to be. There are no dire times for the industry ahead as far as I'm concerned. Very smart decisions are being made by our partners and by platforms. Be more comfortable than you think you should be." The exec's comments come months after PlayStation studio boss Herman Host warned that rising development costs slowed industry growth. Changing player behavior and broader economic headwinds are making it harder to build games sustainably. An announcement that it was closing Demon Souls remake studio Bluepoint. While I know this is hard news to hear, I'm confident in the direction we're headed. Creativity, innovation, and building unforgettable experiences for players remain at the heart of PlayStation Studios. Then in March, Sony confirmed a significant price increase for the PlayStation 5 consoles globally, with all models increasing by at least $100 right after you close Bluepoint. Um, Here's something they should think about. Every game does not need to be an open world game. They just don't. Or a fucking roguelike. You can make story driven narrative games and just have good games. I think like the people shitting on like it's just ridiculous. This is where we are in gaming. This is where we are. And I don't know if we're coming out of this place. I just don't. Not in a couple of years anyway. Will all three of the big three survive? I don't know. I thought for sure Apple would have announced the console by now, but they're like, no, you can buy AAA games from the Mac App Store or the App Store on your iPhone or your iPad. Like you can literally play one of the like Death Stranding and Resident Evil and stuff like that on your iPhone, iPad, or your Mac. So I thought for sure Apple was going to join into the game space, but this is them jumping into the game space. I don't think it goes any further than this. It would just behoove them to not make a console that's a lot of fucking money in R&D, and the question would be, is it going to sell? Because at this point, people have brand loyalty. Some people are just like, I'm Xbox ride or die, fuck you ponies. And then some people will be like, I'm PlayStation team Sony, fuck you Xbox. And then Nintendo's just over there. And then PlayStation and Xbox are like, yeah, your consoles for little kids and stuff like that. I don't know. I don't know. But him being optimistic is like, okay, I get it, but I don't. I just don't. I want to be as optimistic as possible. I'm holding out until I see what's going to happen next month. I'm very, very excited. I just wish that we would find out when PlayStation was going to have their show and when Nintendo's going to have their show. But I'm fingers crossed. I'm hoping we're going to see some incredible stuff. Just fingers crossed. Speaking of Nintendo, this was very, very interesting. Shout out to my guy Cody Rhodes. Uh, Cody says Nintendo sent him a cease and desist. Interesting. During his first run in WWE in late 2000s and early 2010s, Rhodes occasionally wore the Triforce symbol on the Legend of Zelda game on his boots. Now, in the latest episode of his podcast, What Do You Want to Talk About? Rhodes explained to fellow wrestler Kit Wilson why he used to do it and revealed that he was eventually asked to stop. Showing Wilson a Triforce tattoo on his ring finger, Rhodes joked, "I lived that shit, dog," before explaining, "I thought about the principles of the Triforce, which are power, courage, and wisdom." Shout out to Cody. He knows ball. He knows ball. For those who don't know, Zelda's the wise one. Obviously, Link is the one who's got the courage, and power is Ganon. They make up the three parts of the Triforce. That's the whole deal. And I just like the idea of thinking and leaning towards your own wisdom or what you learned and applying it, of being ambitious and wanting to be powerful if you can in a world that's competitive, of sports and sports entertainment, and then having the courage to do it. Here you are taking a dive, you bust your elbow, you're going to decide to take that dive the next night and bust your elbow even further. I thought it was just applicable. He then revealed, I also got a cease and desist from Nintendo. He added, I was very kind. They weren't, it was polite. They weren't coming after anybody. I'm not the first guy to have the Triforce. They show a picture of his old boots where he definitely had the Triforce on them. That wasn't the first time Rhodes discussed his Triforce boots. He actually discussed them in a 2008 issue of WWE Magazine in a feature where he's asked to reveal what he carries with him in his travel bag. Quote, if you take a look at the logo on my boots, you'll notice that it's the Triforce from Legend of Zelda. He said at the time, you know how some people have a book they reread every year? Well, I replay The Legend of Zelda A Link to the Past for Super Nintendo every year. Cody knows goddamn ball. Shout out to Cody fucking Rhodes, man. In the game, the Triforce symbolized power, wisdom, and courage. I thought I could apply those qualities to my life. Elsewhere in the podcast, Rhodes equated the release of The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess with the professional wrestling business, suggesting both were examples of companies reacting to fan requests. Quote, people don't realize it's wrestling, he explained. Twilight Princess is a story about wrestling. Fans like what they like, and when they get vocal enough, the world can change. And I know this firsthand. My whole world changed because of fans being vocal enough. Wind Waker's a great game. They just weren't ready for how it looked. And he's not wrong. When we were all hyped, like, what's the next Zelda game? When the GameCube was like, we can't wait for the next Zelda game. And then we got Toon Link, and we were all like, what the entire fuck is this? Like, what the fuck is this? I can't believe this. But eventually, Wind Waker grew. I mean, I think it's a great game. Wind Waker HD is on the Wii U. I still have my Wii U, but I would love Wind Waker HD to get ported to the Switch or the Switch 2. Just saying. They weren't ready for how they weren't ready, and they had grown up with the series that they wanted. Wind Waker's a great game. They wanted, where's our edgy Zelda? Where's Link? Where's he like growing? Where is it? So here comes Twilight Princess. He's got a good point. I never thought about it that way. I do think that Twilight Princess being as dark as it was a direct correlation um to Wind Waker. I 100% do. So I don't know, interesting. Where are we at on time? Where are we at on time? Okay, not too bad. Kind of a short episode. Again, not too busy this week. I think a lot of news is being held back for the coming weeks, and I think it's going to be some great stuff. And then lastly, due to market analysis, we have found out that the PlayStation 5 sales are drifting behind the PlayStation 4, while Sony says it's undecided on a PlayStation 6 release date and price. PS3 reaches 93.7 million sales. Sony reports 765 million impairment loss related to Bungie. Again, Bungie was a terrible fucking idea. Finding out that they lost money on that acquisition is not surprising. Not surprising to anyone at all. Maybe, just maybe, Bungie, don't be an idiot and tell Sony, yeah, The Last of Us Online looks cool, but you're not going to make any money off of it. When you guys didn't hit the market dimensions that you needed to hit. Just maybe, shut the fuck up. Sony president and CEO Hiroki Totoki says the company hasn't yet decided when it's going to release the PlayStation 6 and what its price will be. However, in its latest financial results published on Friday, the company said it expects income to be flat year on year because of an increase in investments for the next generation platform. For 3 months that ended March 31st, Sony sold some 1.5 million PlayStation 5 consoles, bringing the lifetime total to 93.7 million. This is slightly less than the PlayStation 4, managing the equivalent quarter 2.6 million, which means PS5 is now slightly behind its predecessor, launch aligned, albeit with a far higher price and launch shortages. Given the ongoing global component shortage crisis and recent $100 price rise, much of Sony's financial call was dominated by questions around pricing. One journalist asked for an update on how the increased cost of components such as RAM has affected the price of the PS5 and how much of an impact it will have on the PlayStation 6. Totoki replied by explaining that as the price of memory increases, the cost of BOM, bill of materials, and the cost of manufacturing would increase as a result, which could potentially have a big impact on consoles. He also stated, however, that for the rest of the calendar year per 2026, Sony has acquired the necessary volume of materials it needs and has, to a certain extent, agreed on the price itself. Totoki then moved on to the PlayStation 6, saying there not yet been an official decision on when to release the console and how much to sell it for, because the upcoming component situation isn't yet clear. Quote, we have not yet decided on what timing we will launch the new console or at what prices, Toki said via Sony's translator. So we would like to really observe and follow the situation. Now, looking at the current circumstances, the memory price is also expected to be very high in fiscal year 2027 because there will still be a shortage of supply. So, under that assumption, we must think carefully what we will do. Totoki added that as well as thinking of other ways to reduce the cost of hardware in our areas, Sony will consider new potential ways to sell the PlayStation 6. We would like to think about various simulations, including changing business models to come up with the best solution and strategy, he said. He also noted that the number of active users on PlayStation's platforms continue to grow, so it's not that demand has gone down, meaning Sony has time to think about a strategy for the next generation. Should be noted that Sony translates its financial reports in English via a real-time translator and sometimes revises its official translation at a later date to clarify or correct statements made via the translator. The release date and price of PlayStation 6 has been the subject of debate amongst analysts for some time now, especially as the growth in AI has led to shortages in RAM and subsequent component price increases. Earlier this year, David Gibson, senior analyst at MST Financial, posted a report suggesting that PlayStation 6 isn't likely to release anytime soon, and the previous forecasts on its release window may not be accurate. Sony expects the PS5 lifecycle to be extended, and the PS6's release is likely to be delayed longer than many expected, he claimed. Elsewhere in Sony's results, the company reported a $765 million impairment loss related to Bungie assets following the release of its extraction shooter Marathon. Sony has not said how the game has performed since its release earlier this year. Commenting on PlayStation's results, Dr. Serkan Toda, CEO of Japanese games industry consultancy firm Canon Games, told VGC he expects the impending release of GTA 6 to greatly benefit PS5 sales this year. And I do as well. I do as well. Quote, I am a GTA 6 bull much more than other analysts. While I do not believe even this game can magically revitalize the entire industry, its release will significantly drive PS5 sales despite now the higher price. If GTA 6 does not get delayed until 2027, it will be all that Sony needs this year. Um, we already know Sony has the marketing rights. They're going to sell a ton of PlayStation 5s on this game. That's going to be the perk that they need because sales are dwindling and declining at the moment, but this is going to help them. Let me check. I don't think I have anything else for you guys. No, I don't have anything else. That's going to do it. So I'm going to end this like I end everything else. Believe in yourself first and foremost, because if you don't believe in yourself, of course, nobody else will believe in you. As always, my name is Derrick Lamon Jackson, and that is my time. Y'all have a good one. See you around.